All right, here's a story I just read yesterday. Somebody sent it to me. If I'm not mistaken, I read the story long before, but I'll tell you the story anyway. A young man tells the story. The introduction it gives much more veracity to the whole thing because it tells who the person was, and he came into the person. He knows him and even says his name. Anyway, when this was years ago, I don't know, 50 years ago, and there was a young man, an Israeli, and it seems. Let me just think for one moment. Just think one moment. Um, yeah, I think he was an Israeli. Anyway, so he had a big business. He worked in gems, and he had a really good big business deal to go to Colombia. And there was a very very lucrative um offer that he had over there. And he was in contact with the people over there, and I guess maybe even knew some of the people. And they sent pictures, and they sent all sorts of documents, documentation that it was up and up, and this. And he was going to buy like gems and rubies for a certain amount, and he stood to make a profit of about $1 million. So he had a partner. His partner was Italian or something, and they were going to go together, and they were going to do this deal. So I guess they had borrowed money, whatever. Anyway, whatever it is, they were going to do the deal. So this fellow in Israel, so he had a friend that was a religious Jew. Maybe it could be this fellow also was religious a little bit. But anyway, so he said, listen, you should write to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and get a blessing. So it won't hurt, get a very holy rabbi. So they wrote to the Rebbe, or they called into the Rebbe, and they got an answer back, maybe by fax, that he shouldn't go. Don't leave. Don't travel. That was the message. Don't fly. Don't travel. So he said he shouldn't travel. It's pretty severe. Pretty severe message. Don't travel. So there's sometimes where there's crashes, airplane crashes, and things like that, and he started to worry. But on the other hand, the deal was so lucrative and it was so certain. I mean, but he listened to his friend, and he listened to the Rebbe, and he said, you know what? I'm not going to travel. So he called his friend up from Italy, and he said, listen, I'm not going. I'm not going to go. So his friend said, well, how can you do that? We put the money down and everything like that. You're not going to get any profits, or maybe his money. I don't exactly understand what happened with the money. But anyway, I guess the Italian guy said, okay, so I'll put up all the money myself. I thought I was doing you a favor, and he got all angry. And you're dropping out the last minute. I see that you're not reliable. And he went himself. He went himself. He said, you're losing a fortune of money. You're losing a fortune, but it's up to you. You can forget about me. We're not partners anymore. I don't want anything to do with you. How can you let me down like this? And he apologized, and he said, listen, I'm sorry. Somebody gave me advice. I shouldn't go. Anyway, so he went, and he made the deal, this Italian guy, and he made the deal in Colombia, and he gave them the money, got the gems. And as soon as he turned around, they shot him and killed him, shot him in the back, and they killed him. And of course, they took all the gems back. So, he was very sad that his friend was killed. But on the other hand, he realized it was an amazing intuition that the Rebbe had, that he saved his life. Anyway, time went on, and he eventually went, I think he went to America. And in America, one of the things he did, I think he became a driver. He drove people, especially drove people to the airport. So he called up a friend of his. I might be mixing up the details a little bit, but the general thing is, so he called up, was talking to a friend of his that lived in, or a friend of his called him up. A friend of his called him up. His friend lived in Antwerp. His friend called him up, or it could be that he at that time was in Antwerp and his friend called him up from America. And his friend said to him, listen, how are you doing? Okay. He said, listen, I had the weirdest thing. He said, I had a dream last night. And I dreamt that the Lubavitcher Rebbe came to me in a dream. And Lubavitcher Rebbe said to me, about you. He mentioned your name, and he said that he should do the same thing that I told him. That's it. He should do the same thing that I told him. And that's the end of the dream. But the dream was so real, I felt, and the Rebbe mentioned your name. I should do the same thing as I told him. And I just felt I had to call you up and tell you this dream. I don't even know what it means, but I just felt the Rebbe said in the dream, I should call you, I should tell you to do the same thing as I told him. So this fellow is sitting and thinking, what do you mean the same thing the Rebbe told me? The last thing the Rebbe told me was not to fly. So he was supposed to take this lady. He was a driver. He had to take this lady to the airport to get on a flight. It could be that he was driving anyway, so he had to take this lady to the airport, to the flight. So what's he going to do? Tell her that she was supposed to catch a flight. So what's he going to do? Tell the lady, listen, I had a dream for the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said not to fly. That's a little bit bizarre. So he didn't know what to do. He figured if he told her that he had the dream from the Rebbe, she would just go with somebody else. She would take another taxi. So what did he do? He purposely said he got confused and he took wrong turns. And she said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I know the way. And he got all confused and finally she missed the flight. He delayed it. She said, no, I know the way. It's a shortcut. She would say, let me off. I'll just take another cab. So no. I realized my mistake. I'll take you the right way. I'll take you this way. And finally he got to the airport and she was screaming and yelling at him, I missed my flight. I'm not going to pay for you. I'm going to sue you. And that flight was like this flight that was a TWA flight or something that exploded like 15 minutes after it left. Exploded. And everybody in it was killed. Everybody was killed. I left my cellular phone somewhere, maybe upstairs or something, so I can't exactly have the details, but that was the story in general. So everyone was killed. So it ended up that on flight, it was a terrible tragedy that it was. But on the other hand, the Rebbe somehow or other realized what was going to happen, and he made a special effort to save this person. And he did it twice, a vision. And it shows the care of the Rebbe for each and every person, something like God made Aaron's staff individually grow. Somehow or other, the Rebbe, now he asked a question, did the Rebbe make it just a one-time miracle? Or maybe the Rebbe changed the nature of the world so that less bad things would happen to the Jews. And I would like to suggest that that's what happened in the Gulf War. That Saddam Hussein, he shot missiles into Israel, and everyone was afraid. And the papers, the media, that's the media's job, is to make everybody afraid, right? To make everybody. And the Rebbe said, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. And the papers printed it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said, there's absolutely nothing to worry about, that there's not going to be any chemical attacks, and there's not going to be any this. Is that you should do what they tell you to do. If they say put on masks, gas masks, you should put on. The gas masks didn't help at all. Even if there would have been, they realized the gas masks didn't work. And Israel is the safest place in the world to be. That's what the Rebbe said. And all these missiles fell and they hit exactly where Saddam Hussein wanted, and they destroyed whole this, and they had these, Patriot missiles that they missed everything, and they did more damage than they did good. And the buildings were falling down, old buildings, and no one was hurt. Maybe we can say, it was a one-time miracle of the Rebbe, or maybe we can say, no, that the Rebbe changed the nature of the world so that less bad things would happen to the Jewish people. Could be. I believe that's what happened. And this is the preparation for Mashiach now, that no bad thing will happen to anybody in the world, except for people who like bad things to happen. There's some people who like bad things. Right? They want bad things. This whole woke movement is just like bad things. Just want bad things to happen. And those people, what can you do for them? You give them good things, they're not happy. They want bad things, so you give them bad things. But anybody who wants there to be good, it'll be a good, because the world is already a good world. We just have to open our eyes and see Mashiach now. Have a good day with Mashiach now. See you all tomorrow at 8:15.
Rabbi had a lot of Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute. Yes, 100%. 100%.